Today is Monday, March 16th, 2026. This is First Alert Weather Plus. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here, and we've had quite an active day of weather for sure. We started today with the development of strong to severe thunderstorms. We ended the day with very heavy snow that really worked its way on into the area, and it caused a whole bunch of issues for that evening commute. Dropped visibility, caused a few crashes on I-77. Certainly one of those First Alert weather days that was warranted over the area. We're going to talk more about that snow threat because we're not done with it. Right now, we're going to continue to see that snow over the area literally through the night tonight. Not as widespread, but in terms of snow squalls, going to be likely over the area. We're also going to look back at the nicer weather we saw at the beginning of the month, how much nicer the first part of March was. And of course, as always on First Alert Weather Plus, we're going to take a look at those long-term forecasts and what we're going to be seeing out of the end of March and into April. Can you believe that? We're already almost into April. So here's our system overhead right now. This big swirl you see over much of the Midwest right here, this moisture feeding into that developed in all the snow over the area. This was a powerful system that drove in tornadoes over parts of the Midwest, very strong storms over our region overnight last night and into the morning hours, where we saw wind gusts of up to 60 to 70 miles an hour. And of course, it drove in the heavy snow that we saw during the end of the day. Here's that closer look at that. Low pressure up in much of the, let's say, lower Great Lakes here is where this is centered, and it continues to pull in very cold conditions to the west, as well as that moisture to the south, which drove in the heavy snow that we did see for much of the afternoon here into the evening. By the way, these individual blue circles that you're seeing here are damaging wind gust reports over the region. Up to 60, again, 70 miles an hour this morning. And of course, this big blue blob you see here, that's that heavy snow over the region. And I want to point out, too, this yellow box is a tornado watch for Maryland and Virginia. So that's how really strong this system is. Only a couple hundred miles to the east, we're seeing spring-like tornadic thunderstorms over the region. So very astonishing. We're, of course, on the winter side of the system now, and a heavy band of snow really impacting parts of West Virginia and southeast Ohio right now. We're going to highlight, let's say, Calhoun County, eastern Roane County, Clay County, eastern Kanawha County, and into Fayette and Nicholas counties, seeing that heaviest snow right now. Meanwhile, back to the west in southern Ohio, we're starting to develop snow squalls over the region. Like I said earlier, this is going to be the main issue heading into tomorrow. You notice how this is more cellular, more localized compared to the widespread blue that's over here toward Grantsville and Spencer. Back to the west toward Jackson, toward Portsmouth, toward Lucasville, we're seeing hit or miss blobs of snow. Same thing for eastern Kentucky. It's transitioning more now to a snow squall event. But those snow squalls pack a punch. Much lowered visibility, and of course the development of some interesting conditions on the roadways with very slick conditions and difficult travel over the region for sure. Let's take a look outside in Logan right now. Things have improved drastically over the Logan area because we're seeing better conditions over the region as well. And that's thanks to the development of that band of snow that's now well off to the west. So we're not seeing quite as heavy snow over that area compared to earlier on. Now, Charleston, a completely different story right now. You'll see that come up in just a second here. Visibility still very treacherous right now in Charleston. And that is just going to be one of those situations where we are not looking forward to seeing that. My apologies here. Let me get into the correct channel here to get us up on our weather cameras so we can see that. Sometimes technology is not my friend, but we will eventually get that up for you in just a second. In the meantime, again, Logan continuing to see better conditions over the region as we've gone through the evening. But again, more snow squalls could be on the way a little bit later on. So we'll pull up Charleston here in just a second after I get logged in. So here we go. Here's Charleston. And as we look at that, you'll see, again, that just treacherous visibility over the region. Now, luckily, the roads haven't seen a whole lot of accumulation, but I noticed in Huntington around the 4 or 5 p.m. time frame, we did see some slushy snow on the roadways compared to what we saw on the grass, which is a good coating of snow. We saw about an inch of snow downtown Huntington The roads are slushy. This is not going to be a good thing for tomorrow morning because those temperatures are plummeting. We're getting down into the mid-20s over the region, and that's going to develop flash freeze potential as we're waking up tomorrow morning. That means black ice aplenty for tomorrow morning during that morning commute. So you're really going to have to be careful as you're out and about. This is a very cool shot in Huntington. I want to show you this right here. Let's pull up Huntington. You'll notice downtown Huntington is seeing better conditions right now. That's the incorrect video. There's the rain and snow that we did see. But I want to pull up this picture in Huntington because this is a really interesting image. And I'll point this out. You see this little white area? That's a snow squall. So downtown Huntington itself not seeing snow, but there is a snow squall to the east of downtown Huntington. And that is a really interesting scene that we're seeing there. And we'll continue to see that again through the night off and on. So we've got plenty to talk about here through tomorrow. And that first alert weather day will remain back up. And here's why we're seeing this. We saw, of course, that 1 to 3 inches of snow that really has kind of, for the most part, exited the region, although these areas in our eastern viewing area, Calhoun, Roane, Wirt, Clay, and Braxton counties, continuing to see that heavy snow right now. Should add up to about 2 to 3 inches in those locations. And in the meantime, tomorrow, we're going to see more in the way of some of that heavy snow. So here's again why we're seeing this. We got this disturbance right here that's driving the area of low pressure. That worked in the energy needed to produce all the snow over the area, but it's moving off to the east. We have this cold core of air setting up, coming in from the Arctic, meanwhile. That split in the polar vortex really going to do the trick for us, and that's going to drive in the development of northwesterly winds coming off the Great Lakes with some moisture to produce a little bit of snow. And Dylan Godet is going to really go into the science behind this in just a little bit. But you'll see that cold core of air. This is the low-level wind and temperatures. Again, this is winter-like air we typically see in January, working into our area, really making the air unstable, gathering some moisture with that, and developing the snow chances over the area. So as that cold air moves in, we transition out of the snow squalls, or out of the widespread snow, I should say, into these snow squalls. We're already seeing that here on the radar. In any one of these lines of snow that you see, basically Portsmouth back to Cincinnati. Don't take the location of this verbatim. This is one particular model, but we get these little fingers of localized heavy snow. That's typical with these snow squalls, and in any one of those, we could see a couple of inches of snow develop. Of course, up in the mountains where we're seeing constant upslope wind, that's where we're going to be dealing with 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 additional inches of snow as we're waking up tomorrow morning. Notice by tomorrow evening, though, high pressure moves in, clears us out. But one of our particular models, again, we like to talk about that, adding up the snow in the higher elevations. 6 inches of snow Richwood, 7.4 for Snowshoe on that upslope snow that we see here. And a couple of inches of snow back toward Beckley, and these little fingers of these snow squalls. Again, don't take this verbatim, although US 33 from Ripley to Spencer has been a corridor all winter where we've seen these snow squalls set up. So I would not at all be surprised if you're waking up to that tomorrow morning. But even if you don't see a long-duration snow squall, you still could see quick drops in visibility, a quick coating of snow on the roads because of a quick hitting snow squall. And on top of that, you could also see that flash freeze overnight tonight. As temperatures drop, any of the wetness on the roads automatically freezes up like that, and that develops black ice potential that we don't like to see. So here's our current watches and warning situation. They've extended that winter weather advisory back to the west, finally. It does include Jackson County, West Virginia, Putnam County, all the way to, let's say, Lincoln County, Mingo County, Logan County, Boone County, Kanawha County, Fayette, Nicholas, Braxton, Clay, Roane, Calhoun, and Wirt counties in West Virginia. It also includes Martin, Floyd, and Pike counties in Kentucky. And again, that goes through tomorrow. And I would imagine they would trim this back once the widespread snow gets out of here and we see that more localized snow set up into the mountains. But what is actually going on? What's the science behind this? Meteorologist Dylan Godet has more on why we're seeing that here.
Hey everyone, meteorologist Dylan Godet here. We've got some snow in the forecast for your night tonight and into the morning hours tomorrow. A lot of this is upslope driven snowfall, and you may hear us talk about that and talk about lake effect and lake enhancement to these snow showers that we are experiencing. But how does that really happen? Well, we've got this system, this air low pressure that's leaving the area towards the north and the east. We've got some moisture in the atmosphere, not a lot, but we do have a cold northwesterly wind at the surface and up into the atmosphere that's flowing over top of the Great Lakes to our north and west. And right now there's not a lot of ice coverage because it's been so warm recently over Lake Michigan and up into Lake Superior. When the winds align just right, you get that moisture transported from the Great Lakes towards us here in the lowlands. And obviously you see that lake effect snow right next to the lakes, but that moisture is a little bit higher up into the atmosphere as you hit the mountains of West Virginia, east of Charleston and into parts of Maryland, and even down further into the Appalachians into East Tennessee and parts of western North Carolina. That as that moisture is then lifted upward because of the mountains, it condenses, forms into that snow that eventually gets too heavy and does fall. And sometimes you can get these lake enhanced upslope snow showers lasting 24 hours even after it stops snowing in the lowlands. So that's kind of what we're experiencing here shortly. It's not going to last very long. It'll be gone and out of here during the morning hours on Tuesday, and we're back to more typical spring-like weather. This may be one of the last times, hopefully, one of the last times we see that upslope snow so far left in this season.
Thank you, Dylan. And with all of that coming tomorrow, what can we expect for your forecast? Meteorologist Emily Dietz has your zone-by-zone forecast.
Tuesday is going to start off very cold. Temperatures already in the low 20s across southern Ohio. MacArthur around 21, Pomeroy 24, Portsmouth also around 24, and we may even see some snow showers across the area. We're not looking at a lot of snow, some possible squalls through the area, but overall, pretty chilly start to what we were hoping to be spring. Over in eastern Kentucky by that lunchtime hour, still very cold outside. Temperatures really aren't going to pick up a lot as we go throughout the day today. Grayson around 27, Sandy Hook at 30. Still seeing a lot of cold air coming in from the west. Still a chance for flurries mainly in the northern area near the Grayson, Ashland, Louisa area, but down toward the south near Pikeville, we'll see some overall cloudy skies. Now, by the time we reach that 4 p.m. hour over in southern West Virginia, we're going to be in the low 30s across the board. Williamson around 33, Wayne right at that freezing mark around 32 degrees. Overall cloudy skies and still very cold outside. And as we go into central West Virginia by 8 p.m., temperatures will continue to drop down into the 20s with Grantsville around 25, Sutton 24, Summersville into the teens around 17 degrees. Still might see some snow up in the mountain areas, but for the most part, we're looking at fairly cloudy skies. Overall, Huntington around 28, so be prepared for a very cold day on Tuesday.
Thanks, Emily. And we're now transitioning back into a review of the nice and warm conditions that we did see. But with the warm conditions, we did see, unfortunately, the development of some strong to severe storms. And this was certainly the case as we were waking up this morning. I was woken up by very strong wind gusts moving into downtown Huntington this morning. And we certainly saw that. Each one of these circles represents a damaging wind gust report. And let's take a look at some of what we saw here. This was at the Cerrito-Canova area. This is, of course, Huntington Tri-State Airport. 4:30 a.m., we reported a wind gust of 48 miles an hour over Huntington Tri-State Airport. Looking at Charleston, wind gust reported of 43 miles an hour at 5:45 a.m. Again, that's with that line of storms that moved through. But we had multiple areas of damage from these wind gusts down into the coal fields, especially where those power lines and those trees are often met with some of those damaging winds over the area. Let's take a look at let's say parts of Logan County. Tree in the roadway on County Road 7, Garrett Fork Road, and Barker's Fork Road. That was at 5:07 a.m. As those trees came down thanks to the storms. Let's take a look over in Boone County here, just to the east of Madison. We saw a tree on power lines this morning. That's why we saw multiple power outs, especially over, again, into the coal fields. I know Mingo County had plenty of power outs, so we'll head over to that area. And let's move on down. My apologies for that. I'm having a little trouble with the technology. But let's head on down to Mingo County here, where we have a few more reports over toward, let's say, the northern part of Mingo County. So let's take a look at a few of these reports. This is just to the north of Williamson. We had a tree down blocking one side of the creek at 4:44 a.m., Laurel Creek Road, I should say. with tree on power lines as well at 4:47 a.m. in Mingo County. Parts of eastern Kentucky, we saw multiple storm reports over here as well. So let's move on back toward Floyd County, Kentucky, where we have one of those storm reports. And in northern Floyd County, just along the Johnson County line, we had a tree down near the intersection of Left Fork and Abbott Creek Road and Williams Branch Road at 4:03 a.m. And you remember those temperatures were still in the 70s as we were waking up this morning. They plummeted back down to where they are now into the 30s as that cold front moved through. Let's go up towards southern Ohio near Ironton. Let's take a look at a report near Ironton here. This is just to the west of Ironton. We're looking at 37-mile-an-hour wind gusts at the KDWU Ashland Airport, which is actually in Greenup, Kentucky. So that's in Greenup County, just across the river from Ironton over there. Moving further up into southern Ohio here, we're looking in Jackson County, Ohio, where we had a damage report here. This was a wind gust of 36 miles an hour from those thunderstorms. So those thunderstorms definitely packed a punch this morning and caused a bunch of issues. Meanwhile, we saw multiple days in the 80s here. In fact, some locations saw their earliest 80-degree days on record. Beckley and Elkins, for instance, saw that by 2 weeks. And in Huntington and Charleston, for other instances, we saw multiple record highs. Counting them right now, 1, 2, 3, 4 record highs for Huntington, 1, 2, 3, 4 record highs for Charleston in the month of March. March 6th, we set a record high of 82 in Huntington and 81 in Charleston. March 7th, 85 in Huntington, 84 in Charleston. March 10th, 81 for both Huntington and Charleston, 85 in Huntington, and 83 in Charleston for March 11th. So it was nice and warm back at the beginning of March, and with the warm and the cold clashing together, that creates severe weather, and that's why we saw the severe weather this morning. And further to the north, where that warm and that cold was clashing, we saw plenty more of that severe weather. And our chief meteorologist, Tony Cavalier, is going to talk about one of the earliest and strongest tornadoes on record to happen in southern lower Michigan.
Oh my God, it is lifting houses.
Here's a rare weather scene from early March in Michigan. A strong tornado ripping through the shoreline of Lake Union in Union City, not far from Kalamazoo. What made this such a colossal event centered on the still ice-covered lake after the punishingly long winter gone by. During the calamity, 2 people died. The scope of the devastation mind-boggling to Michiganders.
My back windows out of the house, went through my whole upstairs and blew the front windows right out.
The neighbor sustained unbelievable damage.
The spring storm season of 2026 off to an early and violent start. So let's look at the tail of the tape of the Union Lake, the Union City, Michigan tornado. It was surveyed by the National Weather Service to be on the ground roughly 9 or 10 minutes. Not a long time, right? The path length, roughly 5 miles. The maximum width was about 500 yards. Now that's an impressive tornado. 500 yards is about 1/3 of a mile. I'm calling it 3.5 city blocks from around WSAZ Huntington to the 5th Avenue Baptist Church, or from WSAZ Charleston over to the mall. That would have been the path and the length that the tornado would have been on the ground. And by the way, the top speed was 160 miles per hour. Let's take a look at a schematic now of both Union Lake and Huntington to compare the tornado's extent. So this is the part I like to gear to the kids in STEM as we apply the algebra to the meteorology. I have 2 graphs here. One is a layout of Union Lake and Union City, where the tornado occurred. We saw the ice on the lake, and as the tornado went across Union City, it then cut a little path on the north end of the lake. Ice-covered lake, tornado on the ground, partly over water, but mostly over land for 5 miles. Let's take a look at a schematic of Huntington. No city is a perfect rectangle, but humor me in this. If you consider Huntington as a rectangle, the vertices are Westmoreland, Harveytown, Heights Saunders Middle, and Huntington High, and Guyandotte. The trip from Westmoreland to Guyandotte is about 5 miles. And likewise, the distance from Westmoreland to Harveytown is about 3 miles. So in a perfect rectangle, you would take 5 miles times 3 miles and wind up with 18 square miles of area. And that's what a Google search suggests, Huntington about 18 square miles. Now, let's consider this. If you take the 1/3 of a mile width of the storm and the 5-mile path length and multiply that together, you wind up with 1.6 miles squared, 1.6 square miles that the tornado would have affected. Huntington, the Google search, and we just proved here, about 18 square miles. So that would be like carving out this narrow zone affected by the tornado. In this case, it's about 9% of the city would have been affected. I mention this for 2 reasons, and the first is most important. When a watch is issued, hours in advance, maybe 4 or 5 states and maybe 50 or 60 counties, for example, under a watch to keep an eye on the possibility of heavy weather. When we issue a watch, we know darn well that only a small part of that area is likely to experience severe weather, perhaps as little as 2 to 5%, which means we're alerting a broad area, although it's only a small sliver that will actually experience the heavy weather. If a tornado warning was issued for Huntington, for example, for a 1/3 mile wide tornado and 5 miles the storm's on the ground, only 9% of the town would be affected by the severe tornadic conditions. It's just the way that it is when we issue these watches and warnings, and it's always a good idea to just keep up to date on the latest watch converting to warning criteria issued by the National Weather Service, and we dutifully then give it to the public.
Thank you, Tony. Really great information there. It's really important to know that, not all of a watch will be seeing that severe weather. If you're under a watch, that doesn't mean you could see severe weather, but conditions are favorable for later development of severe weather, and that's why we want to keep you alert. Let's take a look at that long-term forecast, as we always do here on WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus, and as I go to the other computer, we will look at, of course, as always, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, and I got bad news for the spring lovers. Unfortunately, we are back into that trend where we're going to be seeing Phase 7, Phase 8, which is that cold side of the diagram. Remember, the left side's the cold side, the right side's the warm side. We are in that warm side for the end of February, beginning of March. It really felt nice, but much of March and even into April looks like we're going to be stuck in a very cold pattern. On top of that, our Arctic oscillation is going negative. Our North Atlantic oscillation is going negative, thanks to that Madden-Julian oscillation getting stuck into that Phase 7, Phase 8. So second half of March and into April, unfortunately, looking on the chillier side. So let's go back to the other weather computer and take a look at some of the graphics and see what's going on here in the poles. That polar vortex will continue to be set to split, and that's what's going to cause, again, an overall cooler pattern. We'll notice, again, kind of a dip over our region with the warm air back to the west in California. We call that a negative Pacific North American oscillation, or PNA. Now, it does help that over the short term, the NAO, or North Atlantic oscillation, does look to remain positive, but again, that Arctic oscillation going negative. The Eastern Pacific oscillation also starting to go negative, and it looks like some more shots of cold air do appear a little bit likely heading into the beginning of April. Closer look at this activity again. I don't think it'll be quite as cold as where we are now, but certainly not warm compared to where we should be for that time of year. So we'll be looking at shots of temperatures likely in the 40s or 50s as opposed to 60s or 70s for where we should be for this time of year. And the Climate Prediction Center kind of agrees with this forecast. The next 2 weeks indicating slightly below average further to the north, near average over our area, and that's thanks to kind of us being in the battleground between the warm air back to the west, where they're seeing record warmth, which, as they have seen all winter, out toward Denver, Salt Lake City, the Phoenix area, and over toward, let's say, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Looks fairly near average as far as precipitation is concerned. We're going to get these weak systems systems coming off of Canada, not necessarily any strong system that would come out of the Gulf, giving us plenty of moisture. So looks to be calmer, but also on the cooler side of things in the long term. In the meantime, we do warm you up for the weekend. I mentioned a few of those weaker systems moving through, and that's certainly going to be the case as we head here into Saturday and Sunday. There will be just a few chances of mountain showers here or there, especially Sunday night into Monday. And once that cold front comes through again, Sunday night and Monday, we're back into the 50s. So not warm, but also not exceptionally cool. It's kind of near average, but still staying on the cooler side of things for sure, thanks to that Madden-Julian oscillation. This is First Alert Weather Plus. We air every Monday, 6:45 p.m., give you the latest updates on what you need to know as far as the weather goes, give you that first alert as well. And certainly today, we needed that first alert with that heavy snow that we did see. If you would like to follow us each on Facebook, I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder on Facebook. Dylan is Dylan Goday Weather on Facebook. Emily is meteorologist Emily Dietz on Facebook, and Tony is Tony Cavalier on Facebook. You can also check us out on WSAZ.com, the weather tab, and then the First Alert Weather Plus tab has all those episodes there. And of course, if you want to watch us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus. You can find this episode and all past episodes if you did miss us live. In the meantime, I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder. Make it a great Monday, everybody.